a PTB with new killer and survivor, along with balance changes for a handful of existing killers. The pig has been affected the most by these changes in my opinion. In the PTB, the pig cannot see the auras of the jigsaw boxes, which are the means the survivors use to remove the reverse bear traps from their head. They also buffed her base kit ambush ability.
What do you think of the Iron Maiden skins? Mostly shit. Dredge has the best one.
Better than they were. But, unfortunately, not enough to justify the nerf they did to her reverse bear traps.
Yes,
they
thank you.
30 seconds to the timer.
Thank you.
It can take 3 minutes to kill a survivor. Firstly, I don't hate these changes. Actually, there's a middle ground between what the pig was like before and this PTB that I would be very happy with. I'll get into that later. So, what's the issue? Well, to explain the issue, we need to talk about a couple of examples of pig matches. Some killers go into a match planning to tunnel someone out as soon as physically possible, to camp them and force survivors to meet them at the hook, to trade, apply pressure on the survivors that try to help the tunnel target with an RBT,
I can actually play the piano,
and use
which
a
is crazy.
slowdown to prevent them from helping the tunnel target even more. They used the RBT they placed on the survivor to track them down towards the jigsaw boxes and down them normally with a quick chase, or they can follow them around while crouched, thereby avoiding a chase and forcing the RBT timer to tick down until they eventually die, giving the survivor no chance of escaping.
Yep,
Some
that's
killers
true.
prefer to play differently. I myself fall into that category. Personally, I don't believe in tunneling and camping as concepts. The terms have been diluted through overuse, but they're still good enough to describe an alternative to a playstyle that aims to spread pressure differently and at a slower rate. In a pig match like that, the main thought process I use is this. 1. Corrupt intervention. Early game. Look at the corrupted gens and acknowledge most likely survivor spawns. 2. Stealth. To a place survivors are most likely travelling through, or stealth to an open generator that's being worked on. 3. Chase and down a survivor. A good start would be downing and placing a trap.
You're better listen, by the way. This is good advice for pig.
A bad start would be downing a survivor and placing a trap after losing the first generator. 4. Deadlock. Deadlock is there to make sure you never lose more than one generator for the first chase. It's also there to stagger generator progress to help ensure each trap you put on has as much time activated as possible. The alternative to that is you lose a generator while chasing someone and lose a second before putting the trap onto them when they are downed. Deadlock would make sure you at least get a trap on before losing that second generator. It works the same way halfway through the match as it did at the start of the match. 6. While you do this, you can be paying attention to the HUD. Through experience, you'll be able to determine how long a trap has stayed on a survivor's head before they took it off, and correlate that length of time to the most likely number of searches that survivor had to do in jigsaw boxes before it was removed. 7. Using that knowledge, you should be able to predict the pathing of that survivor by looking at the layout of the jigsaw boxes. A smart survivor will path from the closest box to the closest box every time. You can number those, match that to the time it took them to remove the trap,
nostalgia,
and decide which generator they are most likely to be repairing next. In most games where you have a good start, this only comes into play for the third target. And in a lot of my matches, the third target could be the same as the first. Or if the generators are slow, I might choose to pick a fresh survivor as the third target, someone who hasn't been hooked yet. Either way, this isn't tunneling. 8. An experienced survivor would do the opposite. They would choose unpredictable pathing, of course with the risk that the timer would run out, but they could choose to run to the furthest box first, and then choose to run to the closest box each time. This is the proper way to counter an RBT, in my opinion.
I agree.
It's very hard to predict this type of movement,
but some survivors are lazy
enough to focus on when dealing with other survivors.
And run off a record and DS and
if the experienced survivor does this, they not only don't get tunneled, but they avoid becoming the third target and force pressure on the team to be spread out even more. The pig has no say in the matter beyond the point of deciding not to camp that survivor right at the start. 9. Jigsaw boxes help predict survivor movement throughout the map, and they help predict which generators are going to be targeted next. So, most of you might already see where I'm going with this. Congratulations to those of you who do. Yes, why is this so important to explain? Well, this is the reason that not seeing the jigsaw boxes is a huge mistake, and a huge unnecessary nerf to the pig. If a player can't leave someone alone with an RBT, confident in the fact that they will be able to track where they are at a later time after the RBT is removed, in a mid to difficult match, it's likely for the player to proxy camp that survivor and tunnel them out sooner rather than later. This isn't ideal, the pig isn't having fun, pressuring the entire team, tracking people in a unique way, etc.
Yeah.
And the targeted survivor certainly isn't having fun. Being tunneled with an RBT on your head is certain death. The only hope is surviving long enough for the rest of your team to
explains
escape,
my point better
maybe get the hatch.
than I did.
Still, most people absolutely hate it. Well, you might say, pigs just follow me with the trap on now anyway. You might say, oh, pigs just use a screen build and...
Who's saying that? Who's playing pig right now? Like, how many pigs are you going against? Like, legit, someone who plays DBD consistently, how many pigs have you gone against in the last month?
And just patrol the boxes anyway. Well, I'm sorry to say, I disagree with the idea that this is a fault of the pig as a character, or a fault of her kit. It's a fault of the player for failing to utilize the pig's current kit effectively. It's a fault of the developers for allowing survivors to use so many second chances and items that nullify most of what the pig can do in the live servers, leaving no other option than to play in that way. If you prefer a killer to play fair, as you might define it, then removing the ability to see jigsaw boxes is not the way you achieve that. You don't remove the pig's ability to camp, you don't prevent them from tunneling, screen builds will still work just as well, you only take away the one thing that might allow the pig or encourage your pig not to tunnel. And you wrongfully be doing it just to try and weaken a single strategy you don't like. On top of this, in the PTB they added 30 seconds to the timer on the traps. On day 1 of the PTB, me and DrussNBubba tested the changes to pig for about 6 hours. From experience, I can tell you that head pops will be a thing of the past if these PTB changes make it to live. During our tests, we had a match on Midwich. I had been hooked and left alone with an RBT. I played it smart and didn't search the first box near my hook and actively avoided the terror radius before I searched any other box. I had already looped Midwich's entire top floor once while doing this. Druss found me and chased me around the whole of the top floor of Midwich again, most of which wasn't in a chase, so my RBT timer was ticking down.
That's not force pendant, so I'm not interested. My voice sounds so different when I'm in other people's videos. Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe that's all in my head. Or maybe it's just... So, Jay is really helping me nail this point home. By being a P100 pig and knowing... Maybe it's because Jay's voice is super deep.
After finally catching up to me, he hits me into deep wound because of off the record. He then gets body blocked by my teammate and I get away. He doesn't pursue me because he's confident that my head will pop now because it's been so long. Despite having to run to another jigsaw box, despite having to mend out of deep wound for 10 seconds, despite then having to search the box for another 10 seconds at least, the timer on my trap was only 3/4 spent when the trap came off my head. This wasn't the only game where crucial mistakes made by our survivor team went unpunished by the traps. In no game was I punished by having to do a risky search on a box near the killer or come anywhere close to getting my head popped. You can review his 3 #savepig videos by clicking the links in the description. In those videos, we tried our best to show the effect of not being able to see the jigsaw boxes. Druss won almost every game where he hard tunneled as much as he could, and lost, if I recall correctly, every game where he left the trap survivors alone. Which way are players most likely to play if these changes go live? I'll leave that one up to you. Let's talk about the ambush.
I don't know if I like that part though, because whilst I agree 100%, I already see 20 people watching that part of the video where Jay said that, and then they say, "Oh, I knew it. Druss has to tunnel to camp in dead by daylight."
They buffed the ambush, no question about that. It's very nice. It feels very similar to how combat straps and John's medical file felt as a combination before these changes, and that was my favourite combination because I enjoyed the movement. I enjoyed how certain mind games would be able to be done when using it. The ambush still isn't viable though. On the vast majority of loops, the ambush is completely negated by either pre-dropping a pallet or vaulting a window and hugging walls with the right pathing. The right pathing that the majority of survivors will be doing when they're trying to win games on live servers. To justify
Yes.
the nerf to the RBTs and the jigsaw boxes, you would have to buff the ambush more than it has been, so you give the pig enough confidence that her ability to down survivors...
I like this part, you know, you don't have to return to how it is, but I wouldn't mind having more buffs now, you know what I mean?
is improved well enough that she doesn't have to worry about wasting the extra time finding survivors, which she would have to waste if she doesn't know where the jigsaw boxes are. What would I change? I think there are two sensible options when the facts are considered. In both cases, I think the jigsaw boxes should always be visible. The strategy and ability to control the map using the jigsaw boxes is too good and too fun to just let it go to waste because you want to weaken tunneling. Option 1. Jigsaw boxes visible. Keep the change to the RBTs of plus 30 seconds, but buff the ambush even more and make sure pigs are confident they can down survivors quicker than before. Option 2. Jigsaw boxes visible. Revert the changes to the RBT of plus 30 seconds, but keep the buff to her ambush the way it is in the PTB. Thank you for watching.
I disagree. Sorry, I agree with all those. So I'm so used to saying I disagree. My bad. Jesus Christ. Alright, that was a really good video. You're a pig of a week, my friend. Good job on making that.